up? Welcome back to the Super Theory Podcast. With me, as always, is my co host, Chris Green.
What's up, man? Are you ready to get ultimate?
Oh my god. I've been stewing over this for a minute now. And
Comes back.
yeah, and honestly, before we even started this podcast ever, I'm sure this is probably one of the things we talked about the most in general, just as friends.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
if not this, at least Batman. But this is probably a close second behind the actual character. But yeah, today is episode 9, and we are going to do our overview of Batman versus Superman, the Ultimate Edition, because there is no other that matters, which is my very, very first point. I think probably the beginning of the downfall of what could have been the DCEU is the fact that WB made them cut whatever off this movie to make a theatrical cut. Um, that was probably the biggest sign of problems that we had seen thus far.
Yeah, because I wanna think back. When the theatrical cut came out, obviously Man of Steel got decent reviews. I think it was 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it wasn't like that 89, 90 that some of the Marvel movies seem to get.
Mm-hmm.
Some people claim bias, but you know, when Batman vs Superman came out, you started getting those interviews where people were like letting Ben Affleck know for the first time that it wasn't reviewed well, and he was kind of like
Oh
sad,
man,
Batfleck. And
that
so
man.
I think that was the first time I started to realize that it really does matter what a director's full vision is, and even though we can't necessarily get 4 hour release theatrical,
It could
okay,
it could be 30. I don't really remember, but regardless, uh, I mean, part of me wants to think he took out one of the biggest plot points in that 30 minutes just to fuck with WB and show them like this is what happens. You know what I mean? Like
what do you which one do you what do you think is the biggest difference?
the biggest
What scene?
difference to me was the fact that the lady who testified before Congress that
Okay.
Superman killed everyone or whatever. Like the biggest point that I think is that they cut out the fact that she came back to the senator and told her she was lying and that she was forced to do it basically. Because honestly, that changes the whole narrative of that senator and of Superman before the big explosion.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the just thought process of blaming Superman for people that are clearly have bullet holes all through them. But I'll say that the biggest thing that I felt like diverted the movie from Superman to everyone calling him emo Superman
Right.
was when they don't make mention that the wheelchair is long. That you if you read the comics, lead is one of the things you can't see through.
Right.
That makes a huge difference for just general public to know, because then it's not, well, I don't know if I just wasn't looking for it. Well, he wouldn't have been able to see it anyway.
Right.
So even though he can still be allowed to go through those motions, see that he didn't do something on purpose.
Right. Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah. Honestly, for me, just I was. I'll be quite frank. As a fan and an audience member, when I finally got to see the real version, the ultimate version, I was pretty maddened uh, that a company was dumb enough to do this.
Well,
Uh,
so when you saw it for the first time in theaters, you came out, what'd you think?
Sad. I was sad. I was like, what? I was like, this doesn't feel right.
I
Um,
distinctly remember walking out of the theater and being like, damn, that wasn't good.
right.
But I liked Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I thought at the time he was a pretty good Batman, and I've grown to like him even more since.
Yeah. I took the day off from work because it was like a Friday. I went on a Friday morning at like a 10 o'clock showing. Like, I mean, that's how big this was, for me as a fan,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yep.
And so I mean, I was in there practically by myself. I think there's a few other people in the theater, but it was at Alamo, and it was like 10 in the morning. I was fucking hyped, and I sat through it, and I was just, oh, I the level, and I wasn't mad like what the fuck, bitch, but I was like, what happened? I was. It was almost like almost like a depressed type of sadness. Like Jesus Christ, what the hell just happened?
Well, well, because we also know that not only was it not just a straight up adaptation of Dark Knight Returns,
Mm-hmm.
because Superman doesn't die at the end of that. We know it was an adaptation of the Doomsday story, etc. So I came out of it like it was a mashup of a couple storylines, which I'm perfectly fine with because if you're just doing retreads, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Um, but uh, yeah, I just remember leaving. And I was like, wow, they really killed Superman. All right, so we're going that route. But maybe he's alive because of how the end scene was. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I didn't come out of it. I tried to hype myself up that I liked it more than I did. Because when I saw the reviews come out and they were that low, I think it's like 27%
Yeah.
on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that bad a version.
Right.
But you know what? I do also think that that used to be a thing where a director would come out after a bad review, like Josh Trank when he did the remake of Fantastic Four,
Right.
and he was like, "Well, that's not my vision," and everyone was just kind of shitting on him, like, "Yeah, that's what every director says." But now, after some of this
Yeah.
and some of the David Ayer stuff with Suicide Squad, I'm like, maybe his version was way better.
Yeah.
You know?
What got Josh Trank to that point was Chronicle, and I don't know if you ever saw Chronicle, but that movie's
Oh, and
badass.
I like, yeah, that movie is awesome.
Yeah, and so it was definitely much more blatantly seen in Fantastic Four, where when it came out, you're like, that's not where I saw this going at all. And luckily, unfortunately for Josh Trank, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know where his career stands. But most of the stars in that movie, well, I'd say probably half of them, at least Michael B. Jordan and Kate. I think it's Kate Mara. They're fine.
Well, lead guy, what was the lead guy? He was in
Oh yeah,
the
that's
drumming
right.
movie.
Yeah, Miles Teller.
Yeah, Miles.
Yeah, so those three
Yeah,
are
he's
fine.
done well. Yeah.
But Jamie Bell, and then I forgot the last guy's name. Didn't really work out. Actually, when I got out of there, it was like, this Man of Steel was better. What happened?
For sure.
And then come to find out later, executives.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's why this podcast is going to be about the Ultimate Edition, because honestly, that's the only one I'll acknowledge now. I mean, there's no way I'd ever watch the theatrical cut ever again.
Would someone, if someone was like, "Here's $100, you got to watch the theatrical version."
I make enough money at my job. I don't really need that $100 right now. I just,
Well, what did you expect going into the movie? So Man of Steel comes out, and then we take the moment at one of the, it's either the San Diego Comic-Con, I think maybe, where um, they show the logo for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and we finally get to see it's Batman vs Superman. I immediately thought Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller graphic, and I think at that point there was an animated movie that had come out, kind of showing it. Maybe that was after the fact, but uh, I didn't. When the film opens to Bruce Wayne, we get to see kind of the ground point of view. It didn't even click to me that, oh, well, he's going to hate Superman based purely off of the carnage in Metropolis. So I was a little bit surprised, and I liked it.
Right.
I like that angle.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, definitely, probably the biggest purpose you could have for Batman not liking Superman is like total destruction, and also
Well, it shows
his
how
first.
grounded Gotham was at
Yeah.
that point because he was so like, I've been in Gotham forever, and holy shit, there's gods among us.
Right. I've dealt with a guy that got transformed by acid and turned into a clown-like psychotic.
Right.
I've dealt with a guy that's kind of mutated with crocodile skin, but this dude can fly, and he's not from here. How do you gauge
And
that?
just like the incalculable damage of like they just destroy a building.
Yeah. on the
you
way
know?
to another one.
Right.
Uh, yeah, speaking of the way Zach kind of takes things from comics and then adapts them to movies, it's like in the Dark Knight Returns, uh, you know, Batman and Superman have known each other for a very long time, and
Right.
that's when their battle happens. Versus this movie, where it's like this is the first time Batman's ever seen him, and it's utter destruction,
Yeah,
multiple,
and I think
so many lives lost that like, yeah, I'm about to murder this fool.
right, and I think he was always fearful of Clark becoming maybe a tool of the government, which is how kind of Dark Knight Returns kind of plays out. He's the president's kind of errand boy. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I like that there is an adaptation even from that storyline because you could kind of see it maybe leaning that way
Mm-hmm.
at the end of Man of Steel, where the government's like, "All right, well, you're on our side. We still don't trust you," but you have no idea after 18 months
Where it's at.
what that would end up looking like.
Right.
But I was going to get your opinion. I think we've seen Bruce Wayne's parents die in real time or flashback, or at least that hinting. Um, we see it in the original Batman movie in 1989,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not Bruce Wayne's parents. It's just something very similar. Um, we obviously see. I think they go back to it in Batman Returns through a flashback, and maybe even when he's with Nicole Kidman's character in Forever,
Mm-hmm.
he kind of mentions it as well. Anyway, it's a real played out. We've seen this before, so I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that because for me, the only reason to even show that is if you actually plan on using those actors in future movies, a la Flashpoint.
I agree with you, but I think getting it's part of the meme culture now. But before the memes were happening, if you would have went into the theater and seen the Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical cut, I think the whole Martha thing would have hit a lot harder and not just become a fucking joke. Because
Well, so going into the movie, did you absolutely know for a fact both mothers were named Martha? Because it hadn't occurred to me. It was like oh yeah, Superman's mom's
exactly.
Martha.
That's how it was to me.
He's one
Like,
of those.
and I think that's the entire point of Zach putting this in here that way. Is like the last words he hears from his father is Martha, and then the last
Right.
words Superman is about to utter before Batman stabs his ass is Martha. And yeah, that's gonna stop this dude in his tracks. That's the last thing
Only for, at that point, he hadn't even thought of Superman as a man,
That's right.
as a thing other than an alien. It didn't even occur to him he probably even had parents.
Right. And so, he's tripping out saying, "Why did you say that name? Why did you say that name?" Because now what and again, this is just speculation, but at that point he doesn't know the full capability of Superman's powers yet, right?
Right. Right.
Maybe this puts a thing in his head like Superman can look into your mind and like read your thoughts or your, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't know, and we don't know, and that's possibly not it at all. But like that is what stops Bruce in his tracks. No one talks about Martha. You know what I mean? Even Alfred,
Right.
not in the movie, but in the past, has always talked about how you're like your father. There's a picture of you and your father in your building when you're watching Superman go to the courthouse or whatever, or the Capitol. Like it's father, 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 but the only thing on his father's mind at the very end was his wife, the one he loved.
Right.
And so that's gonna stop. I mean, that's a trigger word for him. You know what I mean? That's how powerful her name is. And I think that the Ultimate Edition plays that out very well because it's, again, you have more footage, but it spaces out that idea over much more time. Because even though Bruce's mom is dead, Superman's mom is not, and he never calls her Martha. You never hear her called Martha. You know what I mean? And that's when that boom. It's not just a trigger word; it's also his mom's name. And luckily, Lois gets there and it's like, "That's his mom's name. That's his mom's name." And he's like, "Oh, I mean." And Ben Affleck does a great job of showing that, like, holy fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? Oh my god.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's such a trigger that it just it's almost like a clean slate.
Right. he all of a sudden snaps into the, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
he has a mother,
Mm-hmm.
and it just happens to be my mother's name. But it's almost one of those unfortunate things where in the beginning of the idea, kind of sussing it out the way that we have, it makes more sense for people that maybe don't know the lore as much, so you can't really dive into it. But it's one of those like unfortunate history meme things where there will be people that know Michael Jordan more for the crying meme
Right.
than you
Right.
will for his basketball as time goes on.
Right.
It's just one of those unfortunate things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, people make fun of Martha all the time.
Even Ryan Reynolds, they put that Martha joke, I believe, in Deadpool at some point.
Yeah, I think he is like what solidified it.
Yeah, and funny to say that now there's speculation, light speculation. I don't know how much truth there is, but he's playing with that. He's going to be in the Snyder cuts. So for that guy to pull that joke and then turn around and be potentially in this movie, which I don't know if he is or not, but like even just playing with the idea, it's like whoa, you know what I mean?
He is literally Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like his life is Deadpool.
Yeah, and I mean,
he's just like a joking dude.
Yeah, manifesting your life. That wow.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother. That should be a podcast on its own. We should talk about Ryan Reynolds one day. But yeah, I think showing Bruce's parents die that way, playing the Martha line out, showing how much of an impact it has on Bruce, is perfectly fine. They tread the same water. They let you know that.
But monster actors is my point. Like we didn't see monster actors.
That's right.
All due respect to who played the father and Christian Bale's father. I know that I've seen him in some stuff, but he's not them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I felt, well, maybe there was an overall plan. Maybe we get to see, Flashpoint Batman eventually, and maybe that's still in the works. Who knows?
You have to know that was in Zach's head. He's like, if I'm going to get to create this universe and there's possibilities abound, who would I want to play Thomas Wayne if we ever got to a Flashpoint? Because Flash is going to be in Justice League at some point. Who would I want to see as Jeffrey Dean Morgan? Holy fuck. Yeah, he's going to be Thomas Wayne. Yeah, put the comedian in there. You know what I mean? He knows what's up.
Yep.
He could. I mean, him playing the comedian is a direct correlation to him being able to play a Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman.
Oh yeah.
You know 100%. What I mean? I mean, you couldn't hit the nail harder on the head.
Yeah. I did like how we see these themes in other movies where Spider-Man is reminded that without the suit, are you still the hero?
Mm-hmm.
Type mentality. You shouldn't need the suit, and if you do, you're really not the hero. Mm-hmm. Well, we see Bruce Wayne going through the city as it's crumbling, by the way, and then runs into danger with no suit.
Yes.
And so it's just ingrained in his mind that I got to turn it on. This is who I am. I did want to touch on we spoke briefly about the religious themes in Man of Steel. Well, this opens up immediately with the religious theme with his conversation with Jack in the building.
Yeah.
And as Jack realizes he's going to die, he decides to say a prayer.
So I have two technical notes about this whole movie that bothered me the most. The first one is him calling Jack and saying Jack for the very first time, and it sounds like he's saying Dad. I feel like that audio is not clear enough. That's probably about as micromanaged as I would ever get in some sort of critique. It doesn't sound like Jack until the second time he says it. It sounds like Dad, and then it goes to Jack. Call me crazy if you want to.
I wonder if he was a mentor to him because since he was a child when his dad died, maybe Jack became a mentor in the company.
Right, that's true. So I don't know. That's just my one.
And I don't know if
hit.
Anyone's ever speculated on that, but that's a good. I'll have to go back and look at that.
That's all I hear the first time he says Jack is Dad, Jack. You know what I mean? Okay. Like it jumps from. It's just so weird to me.
Interesting.
I do hate that he's driving the small Jeep of all Jeeps, but I do get that it is a security vehicle. So that may just be like a fleet. Out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think that was his helicopter.
Yeah. Idea about are you still the hero without the suit? I think you're dead on with that. And him running in, I don't necessarily think this is who I am. I got to turn it on. I think I'm turning off Bruce Wayne. I'm Batman right now. I'm just in street clothes, like because that's always
Yeah,
kind of
there
been
was no more
said,
like sneaking.
right?
He didn't care if his identity was, whatever.
And I
He
don't
was
think it even matters with an identity. I think it's just that idea of that Bruce Wayne is the mask that he puts on. It's not Batman. He's Batman. You
Yeah,
know what I
that's a
mean?
good point.
Uh,
And he's well liked. I mean, when he's pulling the steel beam off of
yes.
Wally, he says, "You're the
That's when
man."
I'd say he turns it on. Using your phrase, he probably turns it on when he sees someone yelling "Mr. Wayne." Oh,
Right,
I'm here, but I got to be him. You know what I mean?
right.
Like he's not like, all right, I'm gonna get you out of here. He's like, what do they call you, Wally? You know, and
Yeah,
he's trying to.
that's
He's
a good way to
that's
put it.
almost even to to credit to Zach. That's almost him trying to show that he's trying to be Bruce Wayne. Like, what do they call you, Wally? You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out how to talk to
Right,
people like that instead of just saving them
right.
and moving on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and again, this is just like the first 10 minutes.
As they show the scene, they show the scene with him hugging the child who's clearly just lost her mom.
Yep.
And he's able to see, some of the meteor destruction come down, and then you see Zod and Superman. And with him running into the danger first, not knowing any until he sees the other half of the world engine, world
Right.
building machine, he still doesn't know what this is besides maybe aliens because of how the ship looks, etc. The shockwave it causes and breaks the glass to his window.
Mm-hmm.
Which I do want to point out, I feel like his window was down, but then they show glass breaking around it. But maybe I'm nitpicking.
Yeah,
But then he
I'm
gets
not too
to
sure.
actually see people fly, and it's like all of a sudden he becomes very focused on his face.
Yeah.
And it seems like when we flash forward 18 months, that has been his focus, is how to get to the information about this individual, other than press clippings, etc.
Yeah.
Because he does have to live through, as he says later in a scene at the party, you write a puff piece in the Daily Planet about someone who saved the cat out of a tree. So he's having to see all this destruction happen, and then all of a sudden this guy be a hero.
Right.
And it probably irks him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to kind of unpack in that because, I don't want to jump to the party just yet, but just that idea of like, I mean, if you put it in a long story short form, gets off a helicopter, is trying to get as fast as he can to his building in Metropolis, doesn't make it in time. It falls with, the guy he was just on the phone with is dead. He knows that. Everyone's stopped in the street because it's a phenomenon. They've never seen anything like this. It's one thing to hear about some dude dressed up as a bat in one city, but this is literally everybody's watching. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No one is doing anything except watching what is happening and what's unfolding in front of them. No one's helping. You know what I mean? It's a stop you in your tracks type of thing. And then like you're saying, you see them fly through. You see the meteors. And then the ship going into the ship turning into the Phantom Zone thing where they put his baby ship in there or whatever. There's just so much that happens, and the root cause is the Superman, at least in his mind.
In his mind, because he has no idea who Zod is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't, but that's also something we don't know. We don't know. It does say before it starts showing that this whole thing, like the 18 months later or whatever, the world is introduced to Superman, right?
Right.
Or it says, I forgot how it starts. It says something. The world is introduced to Superman, right? And then but like Batman is literally seeing all the destruction he's caused to get to that point.
And personal destruction too, because even though it's Metropolis, I mean that was his building.
Right.
And we do see some Easter eggs of different properties around the DCU EU.
Right.
being destroyed in Metropolis during the fight of Superman's view. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not just Metropolis and only his stuff.
Yeah.
And I do wanna eventually touch on, but we'll get to that. Let's go to the next
Yeah.
stand.
One thing I do want to bring up is I think that this movie is a really good. It kind of the way it introduces two characters together is kind of a cool way that they do the transition in the soundtrack itself. Because
Right.
Man of Steel was just Hans Zimmer. This one was using Hans Zimmer, but basically transitioning over to Junkie XL because of Hans didn't want to do another Batman theme. He didn't want to have to reinvent
Right.
it again, so he asked if this guy could do it. And this guy eventually kind of takes the reins of the music for this movie because now in Justice League it's all just Junkie XL. Um, so I think the soundtrack kind of translates to the way the movie plays out in that aspect.
Right. I
But
agree.
I love it. It's grown on me every time I listen to it. I like it more and more. But
Oh
I guess
yeah.
the next,
It's a good Batman theme in my opinion.
yeah,
Will it eventually be iconic? I hope it makes, you know, 3 or 4 movies with Ben, but I think it's a very good theme.
yeah, I do too. And I think if anything, even if you're not necessarily a fan of the overall theme, like the actual Batman suite or whatever on the soundtrack, like the sounds that he pulls are very Arkham video game sounds and very dark
Oh,
Batman
for sure.
sounds. You know what I mean? Like I mean,
Yep.
they're primo. But the next big thing after this is Africa, and so Lois is going in to meet with a terrorist
Well,
at a.
I think hold on. I think
Sure.
before that is them tracking down the kryptonite,
Oh, that's right. You're right.
finding the kryptonite piece. Because I had a question. You clearly see people that are working for Lex
Right.
to find kryptonite, and it shows that through the movie, both Batman is aware of the kryptonite because he lies to Alfred. Lex is aware of kryptonite, obviously, but they go about it completely different ways.
Yeah.
And it seems like Lex, which I like this by the way, is a step ahead of Bruce the entire time
Yes.
because it gives credence to that villain. You can't just have like a geeky, smart kind of tech, someone that took over the company from his father and now he's advancing it, just kind of be this quirky guy
Right.
without giving him real gravity.
Right.
And I think they do that with showing him being a step ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, he's smart enough to know that it's where the broken world engine is, and
Right.
I'd love to see a little bit more background on that because I'm not exactly sure where that rock came from, even though it was near the world engine. Like, was it a power source within that, or you know what I mean? Because it was encased.
Right. Right. It was encased, and I don't, them saying that was a large enough sample that's been found to this date means they found some others. We just don't know where, and I also don't assume that was the end of it,
Yeah.
even though we don't necessarily see Kryptonite in Justice League,
Well,
but maybe we
so
will.
he's got someone. So he's got Lex is on the move with. He's got people working in the Indian Ocean. He's got people working in Africa
Right.
for him. I mean, that's just two places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
and this dude's worldwide. Lex Corp. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And,
Um.
maybe his corporation's bigger than Bruce's, and again, Bruce seems like on important things like that, he's gonna try to do it himself.
Right. Yeah. We don't even know if there's anyone helping Bruce besides Alfred at all.
Right, and who was in the dark about it not being a dirty bomb, but we'll get to that.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes. So after the kryptonite, I guess is Africa,
Right.
and I kind of love how they set this up. Again, I don't want to call him a courier, but like some sort of middleman meat person, backdoor to get her as part of the free press and an independent journalist to go interview this international terrorist, and along with her, we see Jimmy Olsen, who seems to be the independent photographer that will capture these moments with her words. Um, I like the small scene of getting them set up in the Jeep and putting hoods over them and stuff, giving that a little
Right.
bit more realism. Uh, and then leading them right into what nobody knows except for the guy himself, like a KGB setup.
Right.
Um,
Well, were you a little? I remember there being some backlash towards changing Jimmy Olsen from, basically Superman's best friend in the comics who just, works at the Daily Planet to the CIA operative. Were,
yeah,
were you were you disappointed by that, or did you
no,
kind of like that turn?
no, and I have a specific note I kind of took for this is like the one good thing about Zack Snyder as a director is he tries to wouldn't even say he tries. I think he succeeds in making most of his characters exciting, even when they would be non-exciting.
Well,
So,
it just confirms though that you're not using that character anymore.
right.
Like he didn't really have a plan for Jimmy down the line. I remember Jimmy Olsen in the original movies just kind of being like, "Oh, I'm this sidekick, and here
Yeah.
I'm popping up over here. I'm gonna talk to Lois," and it wasn't as good.
Well, and he essentially fulfilled all the roles that Jimmy Olsen kind of did fill as a character. Is like he's there, he's a photographer, he's supporting Lois, and ends up giving his life for her, which
Yep.
is more than any other Jimmy Olsen iteration did for her.
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
even though it's a short-lived character, he made Jimmy Olsen badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
I agree. Spoke different languages. Yeah.
yeah,
It was a much. Yeah.
and then to fill that kind of, I don't even want to, I guess, intern kind of runaround person, they make Ginny. uh and she's a fine character too, because again they make her exciting in Man of Steel. uh she gets trapped, and she thinks she's going to die, and she pulls out this really great performance being stuck under all the rubble. What I mean? She's like a really great actress.
Right.
um but he brings excitement to all these characters. So
Yep.
no, I wasn't disappointed at all. I think uh, I also think if you're gonna have Jimmy, that's probably a smarter thing too, because if you have Jimmy hanging around the Daily Planet, he might have been smart enough to figure out that Clark Kent is Superman,
Yeah.
versus a girl walking around and not even thinking twice about it. Not that a woman couldn't figure it out, obviously, but like they're able to play that role differently.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
and
So obviously Jimmy, he ends up dying, and we immediately see that it's just, instead of just this journalist kind of setup, you're fixing to go have a one-on-one interview, because that's what the terrorist thought was going to happen. Number one, didn't think it was going to be a woman interviewing, and I like Lois being like, "I'm not a woman, I'm a journalist,"
right,
because fuck yeah. We immediately see how big of an operation it is.
yes, absolutely,
It's this whole CIA, we're fixing to watch your back, and if things go sideways, we've got a side.
right. Um, yeah, and then we have
Right.
she's not your regular lady. You know, she's a she's on a mission.
Right. Yeah, journalism is her number one goal. You know, based on the events that happen, I feel like she's going into worse and worse areas because she kind of has that backup with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lois was unaware of the CIA's presence. So that tells me that Jimmy maybe was at the Daily Planet for a while, um, building credit as a, photo.
Don't know if there is, because um, it doesn't ever say if he worked there or not.
Yeah, I just sort of assumed, but they did keep it vague, probably for reasons. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, um, and then they figure out Jimmy Olsen, or at least the KGB dude does.
Right.
Which I guess he must have known. Maybe that was part of Lex, is like tipping. I don't really know how they set this up. Lex knew that Superman would go there if she was in trouble, right?
Yeah, the whole setup is to get Superman there.
Yes. And
So regardless of, I think, Jimmy showing up, I think that he just on the fly was like, you brought a photo op person for what? For this secret meeting.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, he clearly at first looks like the bodyguard, and we know him as KG Beast in the comics, but I like the adaptation that they made of him.
Right. Yeah, I do too.
So I was going to ask you, this is the only, and I kind of argued with myself about it, but everybody turning on kind of the people in the area and shooting them and then kind of piling their bodies up.
Right.
What would make them think Superman did that? But maybe an argument of that is, well, he burned the bodies after that, so maybe they thought he just burned everybody.
Yeah, I think that was more the route they were trying to go, is that he set them all on fire.
Okay. Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, as far as the piling up thing, I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know if that was just kind of them being able to interpret one another's um, things, or if that was like, this isn't our first rodeo. I don't really know about that one. That's a good question though. But after Superman saves, I do want to bring up one thing. We talked about the government interfering and government with the Superman. Um, the government knew that Lois was in there. They knew that she was part of the Free Press and an independent journalist working for the Daily Planet, an American civilian in an international terrorist area, and they were willing to take her down as long as they took down the other guy. They flew in a drone, and they called in, I guess, Jimmy Olsen's team on the ground, and the guys was like, well, there's friendlies still in the area, call off the drone, and they didn't. So, I mean, these higher level military guys were willing to take out everyone there. Oh, right. Yeah, no, we're not at all. But it does, it does make me wonder though, like, I think he was trying to tell us. I think Zach was trying to tell us more about the government in this world, and showing us that it doesn't. They show us later at the end when they shoot the nuke off, but I mean they don't care. Right. Oh, hey. Sorry, I lost you for a second. I'm so sorry. What happened? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, you're back.
The other drone to go kill some people is some video game shit. It's just real life people. So what's more damaging?
Right, and I'm pretty sure that people. So yeah, pretty odd.
So after that happens, we obviously see the lady from the village go and claim it was like a crack of thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone actually saw Superman there, but I think they recognized the crack of thunder maybe. And then so now, obviously, the senator decides to let everyone know that we hold Superman responsible. He walks in and he kind of sees. I think that's where the romantic moment between he happens, and he kind of has that I don't care, like don't worry about it. It's really the first time that he's being kind of blamed that we see through the movie. He's well intentioned, which is that he hadn't necessarily experienced yet because of the adoration he got for saving Metropolis.
Right. Yeah.
And I like how Zach explores a more in-depth Superman.
Yeah, I do too. And that's luckily, he has. It shows that he has to deal with it. You know what I mean? Uh-oh. Sorry. Can you talk again real quick? Yeah. Sorry, my AirPod went out, but I can hear you.
I brought up earlier about Batman or Bruce having a different strategy or different mechanisms to try to track down that kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
He's having to work his way up through low-level criminals. We see the scene where he rescues a bunch of girls, and you really kind of get the horror of what it would be like to not ever see a clear view of Batman, but have him be in the shadows all the time, to have to be constantly scared of his light going up in the sky, which I also like. But he's having to go low-level thug or employee all the way up, and he's chosen now to brand them, to kind of put a signal out. I think his give a fuck meter is out at this point after seeing Superman, and maybe the betrayals that he mentions later about people not staying good in Gotham. But yeah, it's as brutal a Batman, and I just think maybe his rage clouded. He's focused on what the White Portugal is. Meanwhile, Lex is able to find out who fucking Clark is before anybody else. He knows Bruce Wayne's Batman. Like, him inviting Clark to the party, out of everyone else that could be a reporter there, shows me he knew right then who that was.
Yeah.
And threw it in his face. He was like, "Oh, you're strong. You don't want to pick a fight with this guy."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's maniacal, cocky. Fucking, it's good.
Yeah, and at the same time, he's at that same party, he's tripping out on stage by himself, trying to explain himself and try to be a host.
Normal.
Yeah.
Right. Try to just be what he would feel like people would think is normal. I do want to clear the air with something you and I have debated for a while, and I don't think we ever came to a conclusion, but
yes.
But he's asking for a suit.
Right.
And Alfred is basically like, Batman interrogated 6 people with a suit, didn't matter. Or he says some version of that, basically hinting that he doesn't need the suit. Why the fuck would a very veteran Batman need the suit? And I think I've thought of it.
Okay.
At the very beginning, when we see, actually, it's not the very beginning. It's the first time we see Bruce come back to Batcave, and he kind of goes over and sits down at the computer. We see Alfred toying with the voice mechanism and talking about this new layer of armor. Well, he's clearly not talking about his normal suit, because mechanized suit that we see armored up.
Right. That makes sense.
That's what I don't think that he maybe. I don't know if he planned, I'm gonna wear this suit just for Superman, or if he thought, I've got to go fucking knock heads around at LexCorp. Right. That's the only thing I can think of. 'Cause why else?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was and we're kind of skipping ahead. I don't know if that was permission for the Batsuit or whatever.
Right.
Or just let him know that he's going to use it. Maybe Alfred has to get it set and ready every time. Make sure maybe he's letting him know he's going to need it, so Alfred can do whatever fixes from the last time it went out to it. You know what I mean?
he mentioned I need a wire. Maybe he was thinking, I'm gonna ask for the suit. I need to know it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I
But
really
yeah,
don't know.
maybe that's the case. I mean, Alfred is a way more technical savvy, looks like a fighting badass than what was portrayed in Dark Knight. And so maybe he's, tactically planning stuff. As we see later in the movie, he clearly can fucking handle road and stuff controls too.
Right. Yeah, possibly. Um,
But yeah, I think we did skip a little bit ahead.
yeah, and I've got some notes here for those listening, and I've got it broken down scene by scene. I don't know if we'll go hardcore detail. We go back to Lois's house or apartment, and she's in the bathtub going through some self reflection, thinking about the bullet.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing here that Zach put in is that Superman fucks. He gets in the tub and gets it on, and very gentlemanly at that. Takes out a flower.
Yeah.
He's being a gentleman. You know what I mean? He's being Superman as like the perfect boyfriend who has all these powers. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna come home and cook dinner and brought her flowers and then he jumps in the tub where they're fully clothed and gets it on. I always thought that was pretty cool and kind of funny at the same time. But it is showing the real world,
Yeah, and the normalcy that he's created with Lois, which
Right.
is what he probably craved in the first movie.
Right. And him, banging Lois also puts to the point of later down the line. Supposedly, it's been said that in the later Justice League, Lois would be pregnant and have a kid. I mean, that's right in within the story. So,
we'll get to the nightmare
yeah,
because we need to break that shit down.
yeah. After that, Bruce gets back to the Batcave. I think right in the beginning, you kind of see the relationship between him and Alfred. Bruce is so jaded that you can kind of tell he almost takes Alfred for granted at points. Just kind of the way he speaks to him. He's like he's almost kind of a smartass in here and there. Not
For sure.
not
He's
hard.
very like
but,
disillusioned.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's my one criticism is he makes 4 separate jokes about him not finding someone to have a quote unquote normal life. And I think that after 20 years, Alfred realizes, shit, I'm going to do this until I die.
Right.
Because he's never going to stop.
Right. But it also kind of shows, again, very well where this Batman is and where this Bruce Wayne is in this world after that long. Bruce is jaded as fuck, and
right.
He's combative because like you said earlier, he's laser focused on Superman right now, and by all means,
right.
by anything necessary, whatever he's got to do. And Alfred's kind of comfortable in that, like you said, like I'm just gonna be right here till it's over.
Right.
And
he makes a lot of comments about either finding a or running out of wine, none to pass down to anybody here,
Right. Which honestly, if Bruce is having a kid, the first thing he should do is keep that thing away from alcohol. But yeah, after the end of the scene is probably the most I guess poignant is Alfred is there to remind him everything's changed. Gods fall from the sky and hurl thunderbolts and trying to reiterate to Bruce, like, again, this is something you've never dealt with before. Like, sure, you've dealt with crazy people and mutated humans and whatever you want to call it, but this is some next level shit.
Well, I think largely it's a commentary on, he starts off by handing the newspaper that shows the guy arrested that's got the brand, and he's like,
right.
Do we have new rules now?
Right.
And he sees in Bruce, he makes the comment about that's how the rage starts, and it turns good men cruel. Like, you're turning into something that's not what you've been.
Right. Yeah. And Bruce kind of just has that look on his face, like
Yeah,
I
like
hate
I see what you're saying, but
I
there
hate
we go.
I hate this phrase. I hate it for everything that it is. But in that moment, on his face is like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yep,
100%. Well, and when he was still keeping a secret from Alfred,
right,
Alfred realizes he's lying to. I mean, so he's doing something that he knows Alfred doesn't approve of, probably,
right,
which makes complete sense. Alfred would have been his father figure in the house. I mean, there probably will always be that father-son dynamic between the two.
right.
You know?
Yeah. After this, go to LexCorp, and we watch Jesse Eisenberg as Lex for the first time really play the politicians like the big tech CEO that he is. One of them he's playing, one of them he's not. But he's a perfect guy to say he frames it in a perfect Lex Luthor way as like, I tells him about finding the kryptonite and lets him know this isn't just for national security. This is for planetary security. You know what I mean? This is for
Right.
the world.
Yeah, it's
And
already forward thinking.
yeah, and I think I have a specific note for this one. This scene to me is kind of what broke it for me from traditional comic book movies. Just with like the dialogue and the backdoor deals trying to be made by the villain.
Right.
Versus something like Civil War, Captain America, where it's all fun and they have their meeting and there's already an accords written for the incident when it
Right.
happened and they better sign it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this LexCorp scene, you get to see it from the bad guy's view. You get to see it how he gets. You get to see him lay the foundation to get what he wants. And even going to where after Senator Finch leaves, I forget the male senator's name, but or the male counterpart's name, but they go and sit down. And he's like, "What's your wish list?" And then you see, which Jesse Eisenberg does a great job of as Lex Luthor, laying out his wants, but in a way that makes it to where that guy offers it to him. When he says he wants access to the ship, that guy's like, done. Pretty easy. He probably knew he was going to get that one.
Right.
And then he said uh, the remains of the Kryptonians' remains or whatever. And then the guy goes, you want Zod's body. And he says it as a question, but then Lex answers as if he has offered it to him and says, yeah, I would love that. Like,
Right.
I mean, played him perfectly to get him to ask him that. You know what I mean? And then that guy realizes what he's done. He's like, oh, fuck, I just offered it to him in my wording. Like, that is some straight up perfect example of how words get turned around in legal type situations. You know
Well,
what I
it
mean?
also shows the fucking war boner that senator has.
Oh my god.
Because he was like, fuck yeah, let's have a world deterrent.
Yeah.
Let's fucking weaponize.
Yeah. But just the back and this whole scene, but more importantly, between him and that guy, I mean, that really kind of separated it for me from a Marvel.
Well, yeah, because the initial when they're initially going back and forth, clearly Lex has been a little bit blown off by the other senator.
Right.
And so now he's talking to the guy, and you almost think, all right, well, he's going to have to negotiate or beg for a deal. But it's, that turn of phrase and then putting the Jolly Rancher in his mouth, you were like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Lex is like, I'm in control.
Yeah.
Which, age old, you got that much money? Yeah, you control a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And then after that scene, I've got a few bullet points for these next few scenes, so we can expand on them if you want, but I don't know if they're amazingly important for our discussion overall. But the next thing is Superman's watching TV and eating eggs, and or making eggs. You know what I mean? And just seeing more rubbish about him that he has to kind of shake off. After that, you get to Wally and him getting to set up to where he goes and paints False God on the statue, which is kind of all self-explanatory, just seeing him lose his legs and everything that's happened before.
Right.
Um, and then we get
And sort of, I do want to expound on that
yeah.
briefly. That after the religious things we see in Man of Steel with directly Superman,
Mm-hmm.
Him to finally get to see that he's called a false god rattles him because
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I thought everyone worshipped me a little bit."
Yeah,
So
or
yeah, go ahead.
at least in some good graces.
Right.
Um, then um, Clark goes over to Gotham and looks for the young lady that testified, and
Yep.
that's when he is told about the Batman and that she's been gone and that he better leave too if he doesn't want to run into him.
Yep.
Um, I love the bat symbol on a lottery ticket. That was pretty fun. Um, then
Yep.
we then we jump to kind of a random scene, but it serves its purpose of Bruce going to like the underground fight. Um, I guess he immediately reads his fighter's opponent, tells that fighter how to beat him as he's kind of bumped into Bruce being pushed off.
Yep.
Uh, that dude turns around, uses that strategy, wins, gives him a nod, and then they walk over and he meets with the KG Beast, who's also at that fight, who loses and has a nice friendly interaction to play it cool, but at the same time cloning his phone so he can start doing some
Yep.
tracking. Then after that, we go to the conference room scene at the Daily Planet where Lois finally brings up the bullet and says she needs to go and would love Economy Plus, but Perry's all about that coach. You don't get any extra room.
And Clark is in the room and he's confused about what she's even talking about.
That's right. And then he realizes that she's been on her own little mission still and hasn't been forthright with the one guy who she could always be forthright with.
Yep.
Then we jump to Senator Finch coming over to Lex's house and Lex talking about some Kentucky mash. To me, in this scene, it almost looked like he was hitting on her and didn't even realize it. Um, there's this
Yeah, he was
weird,
trying to, I think, play the charmer almost, and
but
I
it,
don't know, because his first attempts at convincing her outright didn't work,
right.
and he had to go to the other senator. So yeah, it did seem that way.
It was very weird sexual tension to me. And I
Yeah.
think that may have been part of the character. Like, Lex does not know how to do this part.
Right.
He doesn't know how to woo a woman. um,
Right.
but, we have that whole scene. He talks about how gods fall from the sky, or devils don't come from beneath us, they come from the sky. Um, and then we have Bruce having his first real nightmare as Bruce. Uh, going to Martha's mausoleum. Is it a mausoleum site on the wall? I don't know what they call
I don't
that.
know. There's like a burial half building. It almost looks like.
Right, and it's like they're
That he's
buried. It's
going
like they're
to.
put into the wall, or I don't know how that works.
Right.
But then he sees blood dripping from it. Bat breaks through, bites him on the neck. He wakes up. He's drunk. There is a mysterious lady in the bed. We never find out who that is. Probably doesn't matter. I would like to know though. She obviously didn't have anything to do with that story, but was she supposed to?
If he's not necessarily going to do a ton of functions.
Right. And that might be one. Drinking and fucking might be Bruce's vice, and they may have just tried to show it in the nicest way possible.
Right.
But then after that, we get Alfred coming in. Bruce is so nice. He offers him a cup of coffee. Tells him that he's going to need the suit, and that's when he's let known that he doesn't have to do that. He's been invited to a party.
Right.
And before Bruce can head off to that party, he's got to take one look at the suit he's not taken. Probably one of the most iconic shots from the trailer to movie is that stare at the suit in the cave, and then he immediately follows it up with looking at I believe we're going to get to see more of that in Justice League from what I've heard or read around the town.
Oh, just it also confirmed to me when I heard it was Dick Grayson that there was no plan on Grayson into the Red Hood, but
Right.
that sort of storyline for the Bat family would be dead.
Potentially, unless there was another Robin, but it doesn't look like there was. It looks like Dick might have been the only one so far. Uh,
Yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't be
right. And I think,
Memorial or
yeah,
I don't see you creating a new Robin and then him turning into Nightwing if you're going to kill Dick Grayson.
right,
Does that make sense? I mean, then you're really deviating.
right. Um, but yeah, we get the. Then he goes outside, pulls off the cover, and heads off to the party. Lex's, where finally the Trinity kind of meets. I would say
Yeah.
Superman doesn't really see Wonder Woman. He only sees her after Bruce stares at her walking off. Um,
Well, but we are introduced to Superman's obviously super hearing because he's the only one that hears
right,
Alfred.
right,
Um, so yeah, he's more focused on what is he hearing now that he's able to focus that power, and probably doesn't care that Diana's there. He's in love with Lois.
right. It's in between them.
Yeah.
Then we have Clark walking up to Bruce and getting right to it, asking about the bat in his town. And I don't think he knows that he's Batman yet when he asks this. I don't think he figures out anything until he hears Alfred talking. Uh,
I don't think that he's. I honestly don't think he's aware of who Batman is until they have the meeting later in the Batmobile, because
yeah,
then he could use his X-ray vision through the suit.
right. And he also gets to see him. He also hasn't seen this Batman. All he's done is seen
Right.
a symbol on a lottery ticket and heard about it.
Right.
He doesn't
Or
know
shine the
what.
light in the sky. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he looks like or anything. So yeah, you're right on that. Um, we get the Lex Clark Bruce meet up. Don't pick a fight with this guy.
Right.
And Diana thinking she's slick, and she is. She straight up steals his shit. The greatest detective
Well,
in
let
the
me ask
world.
you this: does Diana have super hearing?
Ooh, man, I don't know.
Because how else would she have known to go there and take that drive?
Man, I don't know.
Otherwise, she's just there to also steal the data.
Right,
But she doesn't have a drive on her.
right,
Unless she's been aware of Batman and Bruce this whole time, because, I mean, while she's quote unquote stayed off the grid, even though that's going to be changed since she clearly did something in the 80s based off this new movie coming out,
right.
she could be aware of Batman. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I really
I
don't.
just don't, I don't, for Wonder Woman, she has super hearing, that's all.
Yeah, and I would really love to know more of her background in that movie. Like, she's just kind of leaving places all the time.
Right.
Like she saw an ATM footage leaving somewhere getting money. She's just constantly at places and leaving them.
Right.
I wish I knew more about that. Which that might just play into her being an art what's it called? Not a choreographer, curator.
Yeah, because we do see her as a curator in the next movie, but I mean, who knows if that's going to be kept?
Right. And we can talk about her at some other point.
Yeah.
Superman decides to save. He's following Bruce down the stairs, but sees that there's a young lady trapped in a building in Mexico. He needs to go help. So he does. But right after this, I love the kind of difference in images because in the Man of Steel, Zod goes into his consciousness and they have a conversation while he's on the ship, and he's in the black suit and gets buried under like a bunch of skulls, right? Versus this scene where he saves someone, brings her down, and then all these people, because it's like the Day of the Dead type festival or whatever, they're all in their makeup and stuff, painted like skulls, and they're all rising up, and trying to touch him. So I've always loved that. I think juxtaposition is the right word for those scenes of how they kind of play on each other.
Yeah, because it goes right back to that's what he's used to. That is what he's used to when he saves the day.
Right.
So that's why, again, the false god thing rattled him.
Right.
Because he wasn't even aware people thought negative about him.
Right.
Let alone to that degree.
Right. And then right after this is the great philosophical debate between I forgot, was it Vikram Gandhi and Neil deGrasse Tyson and a couple others.
Oh
Um,
yeah, the
and I
debate on if Superman should be. Yeah.
Yeah, and they get to the point of that whole idea of this God coming down here, and now we want him to abide by our rules when he for sure doesn't have to.
Right.
Everything he's doing is by choice, and so I think that whole conversation is definitely more relevant now than it ever was. Um,
Yeah.
I I really love that scene. I love how it makes you think. It's a great kind of back and forth through all those people. Um, but after all that heaviness, he's got to make a phone call to Mama, to Martha,
Right.
and
Yep.
get some info on the way his dad thought. After that little scene, we cut to the bullet analysis that Lois goes and has done, and she finds out that it could have been, or that it's an odd little duck. It's nothing that's been seen before. And after that, we go to Wallace getting bailed out of jail. Um, and he gets bailed out by Lex. And he drops the one F bomb in the whole movie. What the fuck do you want?
Yep.
And basically, Lex wants to set him up as a bomb, but he
wants to give him a nice bomb lead laced wheelchair.
That looks very cool and is much more updated than the one
Very
he's rolling
cool.
around in.
And guess what? Someone in that guy's position is not going to be like, you know what? Let me inspect this wheelchair.
Yeah, he also bought his suits that he wore. I mean, those are some slick suits that he got, too.
Yep.
The Bat brand kills, and fortunately, it plays out. Young Santos.
Yep. Yep. Which I believe is, I think he's killed by. Is that C.T. Fletcher?
I think it is. I was wondering that too, and I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Still your motherfucking set, bitch.
I think that was before. Was that before his? That was after. Maybe it was after his heart attack.
Yeah, anyway. I think it was before. This movie's way before his heart attack, I think.
Okay, yeah, the movie's before.
Because he's much bigger in it,
too. Yeah, I thought that was a cool cameo.
Yeah, I did too. And then we jump to one of the best lines, which I completely disagree with. Everyone cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman Perry. Duh.
Yeah.
It's what we're at the movies for. But man, Lawrence Fishburne, what a bad motherfucker.
Yep.
Then we cut to the next party where Bruce catches up with Diana, and it's basically like, give me my shit back. I've dealt with women like you. This isn't new to me.
Well, they both make a comment that they know that the sword that they find is fake.
Right.
Which obviously Diana knows with her mythology.
Right.
Greek mythology. So it kind of shows her that he's a little up on a little bit of news at least.
Right.
But yeah, Bruce has no idea who that is or who she ends up being.
Right. And I would, they don't show it in the Justice League on Bruce, but I would love for Diana to get her truth lasso around Bruce sometime, or at least get him sitting on it. Like, that was probably the funniest thing out of the entire Justice League, was Aquaman accidentally sitting on the lasso, which
100%.
I don't even think that was I wouldn't even agree that it was needed, but that was probably one of the better written things in that movie.
Well, I saw purists were arguing that, well, it wasn't around any part of his body, so it couldn't have activated, and I was like, okay.
That is an all-powerful weapon.
Funny part.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
She also used it on Doomsday later on, and guess what? He wasn't saying anything about the truth. It was just to hold him down. It was it's a multifaceted tool.
Right.
But whatever. But yeah, lets her know he's dealt with women like her, and she's like, no, you haven't. And she already knows that he's there. She's already put it in his car. That's how ahead of him she is, even though he has no idea.
Right. And
Uh,
see that goes to my thing of God damn it, Bruce, world's greatest detective. You are fucking behind everybody,
right,
especially for someone who in previous iterations is one step ahead of all the Justice League members.
right. And credit to Zach because it's just true to his form that he shows how powerful women are in his vision.
100%, yeah.
And then we get the Nightmare Bat. Um, this is the trippiest scene to me in any comic book movie I've ever watched that I can think of. Um, it's so trippy that people still aren't over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the transition between we see 2% on obviously his data crunching machine trying to get the encryption out,
Right,
and then all of a sudden he's asleep
right,
is a weird transition, but yeah, opening up to this desolate world, which we now know through Zack Snyder's comments, involves the anti-life equation,
mm-hmm.
which in the comics is what turns Superman evil. It also has a little injustice feel with some comments that Superman makes, but we do get to pull up on the Omega symbol, which is clearly Darkseid's symbol. So in the anti-life equation, Darkseid kind of possesses Superman, and they kind of work together. And so
Right,
that kind of hashes out or fleshes out what that might look like, and a Batman who, if Superman takes over, is still on the hunt for kryptonite.
right.
He still hasn't found it, and he's still trying his best.
I think we've talked about this in other ones, but I just want to go on record still. I really think that the guy delivering the non kryptonite is Oliver Queen. Uh, I think it's Green Arrow, and I think that's why he apologizes to Batman. Even when he pulls a gun on him, he was taken over.
Well,
Uh,
see that when you brought that up to me, that's what made me also think of the Injustice storyline because you have superheroes picking sides,
right, and
and so that would
Oliver
be
Queen.
plausible to me.
Yeah, I mean, him and Bruce are
Yeah,
the same guy. Essentially,
exactly, same guy,
and so
essentially. Yeah,
I would assume that's him. Um, or at least I would hope that's what it seems like to me. To have it to for Zach to put in a line from someone like that to him,
I
that
just would have loved to hear when he looks down and he says sorry, and then I wish Batman would have looked up and like in his gravelly voice just said Queen,
yeah,
like
and
you
then
betrayed
that
me.
would have been a hard answer. But you know what? Maybe we'll get an answer to that in Justice League, and I
Right.
can't wait for that. So, but anyways, I believe that's Oliver Queen. Um, but I also wonder in this scene because he's watching the screen decrypting right in the Batcave, and then all of a sudden it jumps. Is that jump to that essentially is a future memory? Is that instigated by the Flash's jump? Is that what happens when the Flash picks a target? Is
Well,
it
it
brings that
must.
reality to that person's fruition because it's coming from that guy at that time?
Well, because we also see Flash in an outfit that's way more
Advanced.
technologically savvy, yeah, way more advanced. So, this sort of depicts a even future down the road once Superman gets rid of Batman. He is like this universal police symbol, um, because we know Flash in this world already, even
Mm-hmm.
though we don't see him in BBS except in a clip. But so yeah, I'm thinking that unless he's literally traveling to do stuff other than a pop in. But we
Mm-hmm.
also don't know where he's at in his powers either. I mean, Flashpoint will flesh that out. I don't imagine that within the movie he's going to all of a sudden be able to time travel and then hang out in another universe and
Right.
then zip right back, hang out in another one. So maybe that is what it looks like.
Maybe. But I that's probably one of the most. I think that's a groundbreaking scene to have in a movie, especially for this type for a comic book film like that. Really puts into place the idea of the multiverse, the idea that you can travel through time, and superheroes, but it does it in such a grounded, gritty way that that's worlds apart from like Avengers Endgame where they build a time machine and they jump in a time machine. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Well,
on two different levels.
I do with everyone assuming Superman is faster than the Flash. Wouldn't that mean Superman could go back in time?
Well, see, but that's the thing is, uh, from what I understand, Flash can only get up to certain speeds for the Speed Force with help from the interdimensional like treadmill thing, which, from
Okay.
what I've read, Bruce helps build down the line.
Okay.
To
Okay.
Man could beat that. But that,
I do wish during the flash forward scene that his audio would have been clearer
yeah,
because you have to really pay attention to, am I too early? I'm too
am
early.
I too soon?
She's
Yeah,
the key. You were always right. It
fear
was
him.
always her.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Lois is the key. It's, I mean, when I first watched it, the theatrical version, I came home and was looking up what he said.
Hmm. Interesting. I had more of a problem with Dad Jack than that
Okay.
personally. Um. Either way, yeah, it's still. I
He
mean,
does sort of, and Bruce does sort of like snap out of it, and
yeah,
he's, oh, my encryption's ready.
yeah, but there are papers flying in the background, and that's like kind of
And
the.
also, he did have the dream where, the bat came out and ate him, so he may thought it's just night
Oh,
terror
right,
that
right,
he's just
right.
keep having.
Yep,
So maybe that's how they would just, do it.
and that's how he doesn't know to like take it super serious.
Right.
Uh, and then we get to the probably my favorite scene of any Bruce Alfred scene. Is the 1% chance. Um, I've watched this so much, and I just love the way it's acted. And for reference, I'm an actor in general, but I'll say these lines just by myself sometimes, just because I love how it plays out. Um, and I love the audio trick of when he says that son of a bitch brought the war to us, like his voice gets deeper, deeper, and then us, it's for sure him with like a little bit of Batman microphone to pull out that like
Right.
us sound because he's talking about him. He's talking about to us as in me and Bruce. Like he brought this to
Right.
us. You said they were sounding like it sounded like a clown almost.
When he said the word clown, when he says maybe it's the Gotham in me,
Oh,
but I
dressed
have a
like
hard time
clowns. Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, that's when I first heard the Batman voice, and then later when he's having that conversation with Alfred, like you were saying, you also hear it when he gets very serious.
Right.
You can see how his voice gets there even without the mechanized device.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I always had a problem with the 1% chance because what you're doing is you are diminishing his detective skills, which at this point have been very limited compared to Lex, compared to Diana, uh, even to some degree, Superman, who gets to use his X-ray vision probably to suss out that he's Bruce when they encounter later in the suits. He's behind everybody, and now all of a sudden he's taken everything to absolute certainty if there's a 1% chance.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre choice on Batman, and I always kind of sided with Zach. Really likes Superman as his favorite kind of character. Not that he doesn't like Batman, but I didn't think that they treated it that well. I mean, we got to see extreme detective skills from Christian Bale whenever he uses the sonar, even though Lucius Fox helps him design that. I don't know. I always just had a problem with it.
No, I see your point. Um, I I I just think he's so.
Is he that clouded by anger?
I think so. I really do, and
Because Bruce doesn't know that's Clark at the party. He doesn't know that's Superman.
see, but I think he does. I think
Do
he's.
you know? Because he's kind of like, what paper are you with? No big deal. He just said every time you write a puff piece. So Clark clearly is writing his own stories about Superman.
Yeah, I I think he realizes that's him when he's there though. I think when he sees him face to face because he's probably seen him on so many newspapers and stuff. I think he figures it out.
Yeah, maybe so, because the line with freaks dressed like clowns kind of rattles Clark.
Right.
So yeah, maybe
And
you're
it's
right.
so direct. I feel like he's just saying it to his face. You know what I mean?
Right. And then it does rattle Clark. He's like, what would you say that for?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after the 1% chance, we see um, Clark go to GPD and tries to find out more about Santos, the guy who got murdered by C.T. Fletcher. Um, one cop doesn't help, one cop does, points him towards the wife who's picking stuff up.
Yep.
And gets to ask her about him. She says the only thing that's going to stop this guy is a fist. You can't talk to him.
Yep.
Transition to the next scene, which is Batman's tracked down what he believes is maybe the white Portuguese, or that it's arrived, and he realizes that the KG Beast is going to be there because he's cloned his phone. So he gets there. We see the cool rifle, him holding a gun shot on top of.
Which I remember in the trailer, everyone was like, "He's using a gun."
Right, and it's for a tracking device.
Right.
And then we get our first glimpse at the Batmobile in action. It's fast, it's agile, it's slick, it's got machine guns. It can.
But it's almost like the Tumbler as far as just absolutely mowing through things.
Yeah, I feel like
it's a rammer.
I feel like Zach did the Tumbler mixed with the Tim Burton Batmobile, and that's what you got. You got something that was still low profile and could still move, but was built like a tank car.
So, quick ranking: is it a top 3 Batmobile?
I think it's yes. For me,
is it a top 2 Batmobile?
Yes.
Is it the best Batmobile?
I think for me it is.
Well, you had gadgets on the Tim Burton one also, but it was a little bit more limited. Remember, you could put your shields up. You could do.
Well, he had to shoot bombs. He had to shoot out like a line to make a hard left turn.
That's true.
So, and then when it split in two in Batman Returns, that was a little odd for me. But I always loved the styling of it, and I think Zach fucking nailed it. You know what I mean? Like, when I first saw the first still of the Batmobile, from or not the first still, but like the one up close where you saw the front, and you see those 2 yellow blinker lights, basically, that were, straight from Burton. And so was a little bit of the shaping of the windshield and doors and stuff.
Well, knowing what I know about both movies, it seems like the Tumbler would have been more set for this Batman,
right?
And this Batmobile more for Christian Bale's.
I think you're right.
Like brutality Batman-wise, but anyway.
Yeah.
It is one of the best, with the exception of, the Joker scene where we, in Dark Knight, where eventually the 18-wheeler flips over. That chase scene is awesome.
Yes.
But this is like, finally, Batman's fucking killing people, getting them out of the fucking way.
Yeah.
And people know he's coming.
I think the best way that Zach showed the ridiculous side of a Batman type of car is that this Batmobile shot a line out, hooked onto the car that already got damaged and wrecked, and then dragged it behind him, and then he used it as like basically another form of weapon, shooting a damaged car, releasing it off, and letting it run into a building or whatever. Like that was probably the most ridiculous Batman thing, and even that played out enough where you're like, all right.
Yeah, maybe he does that 1 out of 100 times.
Exactly.
Gets the car right on the car, but fuck it.
Yeah.
At that point.
And
he has the flares to stop the grenade launcher.
I love the Arkham inspiration in this Batman. In his fighting style and the flares on the car. The flares really nailed it for me. If you didn't think Zach knew about Arkham up until that point, then you're like, oh yeah, he gets it.
Well, and what's awesome about showing the absolute destruction that this machine can do, it is absolutely emblazoned into Batman's mind the minute he sees Superman, and that car bounces off of him like it was a concrete pillar and you were riding a bike.
Right. And this is my other.
I love that.
This is my other second technical note of this movie. it was very hard for me, and it still is sometimes, to see him kicking the Batmobile. It doesn't look like a kick, but it is. He kicks it.
Does he kick it? I thought he
Yeah,
just ran into it. I
no,
didn't know
it's
that.
he's a kick. He turns his right leg and he gives a little kick. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
exactly, it's hard to see, and I think that's my biggest. That and the Jack Dad thing are my two biggest technical flaws in this movie for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I just thought he just stood in the way, thinking, all
yeah,
right.
no, he kicks it. He kicks it off to the side. Um, yeah, I mean that was so hard for me to tell out of all the times I watched it. You really got
Right.
to like look at it when it's happening, and it's because the color palette at night right then is just so dark.
Right.
Um, but either way, still awesome.
But it does lead to, I think, up to that point, Superman looked at Batman as just this one, like you said, this one man reign of terror.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that he's just a human, doesn't matter. Although he's never necessarily seen him in action, he's just kind of like, you know, hey, who's this guy? I'm just going to go up and scare him a little bit.
Right.
He rips off the Batmobile doors. We get to see Batman stand up in the Batmobile, and him basically threatening Batman doesn't phase him at all.
Not at all.
Batman
Not
is
one
like,
iota. And phew, man.
hey, hey alien, do you bleed?
Yeah.
Like, and that question rattles Superman because
Yep.
he's like, what the fuck did you say to
Yeah.
me?
He's not like, oh
Because
yes,
at this
sir.
point,
It
we
won't
know
happen
that
again.
Superman.
He's like, do you bleed? And then he
Yeah, he
tells
was
him
just
you
like,
will.
what did you say?
I love the you will part because I'm pretty sure Batman knows Superman can hear it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was thinking. I know Superman heard that.
Yeah. I love that. I wrote in my notes after do you bleed? It's not a terrible question. We really don't know yet.
No, all we know is that he coughed up blood on the ship when he was in the kryptonite kind of controlled climate ship.
Right.
That's the
Well,
only time we've seen him bleed red blood at that point. It
well,
wasn't
and
through the Zod fight.
they pull the blood from him though on the ship too.
Oh,
Uh,
that's true.
they pull when they try to figure out where the codex is. So I
But
guess you could kind of see there,
definitely,
but
the last 18 months, nobody
nobody
has
knew.
seen him bleed.
Yeah. So after this scene, um, we get after the scene we see where the transponder goes. It goes to LexCorp, and Batman Bruce Wayne is standing in the cave with his suit on, and he takes the cowl off, and we get one of those other iconic looks.
Right.
But then after this, the liar comes to the senator and comes clean.
Right.
The biggest plot point. This is the biggest plot point that was taken out of the theatrical cut. Bugs me every time I think about it, even though obviously they've definitely learned their lesson now that we're getting Justice League.
Because isn't there no reason to have Superman come to court
No.
if she then retracts everything? And that's what confused me about the continuation of that.
Right.
Because that technically should, as much as she believed her at the beginning, unless she felt like at the end of that conversation, Superman put her up to it,
Right.
or she had too much public outcry that she couldn't have him come and testify.
Right. Yeah. So, like, man, again, it bothers me so much, but it also changes the entire viewpoint from the senators. Like, she knows the truth now.
Right.
So when she goes in there and is like, this is a day for truth, I mean, it just plays on this other level. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then Superman shows up. He shows that he is not afraid to confront what everyone feels and thinks about him.
Right.
But unfortunately, that old little lead wheelchair dynamite bomb goes off and murders everybody except Superman. And Superman's weeping. He's crying.
Right.
He
He starts to have self-doubt that then gets reinforced after he is able to carry some people out of the Capitol building, and the help responder is kind of like, you're in my way.
Right.
So it kind of is just like, what's my fucking purpose in this?
It breaks him.
Right.
And it also breaks Batman. Bruce is watching. He's finding out that Wallace hasn't been getting his checks. Lex Lex has been interfering, grabbing his checks, and writing notes back to Bruce. So Wallace never knew he was getting money, even though it seemed like he was sending them back out of rejection. Like this is I'm
Right.
not taking
It
this
seemed
from you.
to Bruce Wayne and his handler that he was sending them back, when in reality he wasn't getting them at all.
Right. Which is even more sad if you think
Right.
about Wallace.
Yep.
But he gets pissed and that's it, and he's going after some kryptonite, man.
Yep. Oh, and I wish we could have seen an elongated footage of him at LexCorp, because seeing it on the monitor, him that fast going down, that is stuff of fucking nightmares.
And the drop down.
That is nightmares.
Boom. And that's straight Batman shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's it.
That is straight up Arkham. You fucking hang on the gargoyle, you look down, you tap whatever controller you're playing, and you fucking sneak attack and hang someone up.
Yep. I mean, it's amazing.
It's awesome. He obviously leaves the battering in for Lex.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fuck you, I got it.
Yeah, I was
Thanks for getting it for me, basically.
You've been had by Ace Ventura. That's what I was thinking of. And then Superman, broken down, goes to Lois's. Lois is in Washington, so he goes to her hotel. They have their little emotional talk, and Superman's like, Superman was never really real. He was just a dream he was a farmer from Kansas's dream.
Yep.
Lois tries to let him know that it means something, but he can't see it, and he flies off. And we see Lex breaking into the ship and taking the fingerprints of General Zod and transforming the ship to his will, or at least the beginning.
Yep.
After this, we find Batman working out and getting ready. I love this is probably the montage of all montages for me.
This is classic Zack Snyder movie to me.
Yeah.
We're about to see some bros work out.
Yeah. And not only the bro of bros, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
I'm not working out with anybody. Fuck that. I'm going to hit a hammer on a fucking tire.
Mind you, my wife hates when I watch this movie, but there is one part of the movie she watches.
It's the workout.
And there it is.
Yeah.
It's the workout.
And that's all Ben. I remember hearing, there's an interview with him where he talks about, I got in the best shape of my life, and then I went farther. And, he was like, that's the hardest I've ever had to go.
Yeah, because a lot of people thought that, like, the lower part of his abs were kind of photoshopped, but I was like, I'm pretty sure it's him.
That was all real, and he did it in the town.
Yep.
But I love this montage. I wrote, it shows us how a man becomes a myth. This guy's going to that other place.
But I will tell, practicality-wise, if I'm fixing to load up for a fight, guess what I'm not doing? Going to lift heavy weights so my muscles are tired.
Right. And you know what? He may have just been getting warmed up. That may have been warm up.
Well, yeah. We also know the suit is fixing to give him a lot of extra power, too.
And it's also going to take a lot of impact for him.
For sure.
But the hunt, I also love that the hunter makes the spear.
Yep.
And while things are being prepped, he finds out about metahumans. He watches all the security footage and then finds the photo that Diana's been looking for and decides to write her an email. After this, we have Superman in the mountains. I would love to know more about this because I don't know if he's really talking to his dad or not. Does he as Kal-El have the ability to talk to a human dead consciousness?
I think what the Fortress of Solitude allows, because I think a lot of people thought that his ship became his Fortress of Solitude. Well, they use the ship later and it's destroyed.
Right.
I think it's just him getting to a part of the Earth where he can't necessarily hear voices anymore.
That makes sense.
And he's just able to conjure up a conversation, because it is he gets to learn the story, which we also don't know if he was told that story before, and he's just now remembering that story and having Jonathan tell him that story. It could have been a childhood memory story. But the biggest takeaway is, obviously, you're going to react to situations You're going to intervene in those situations, and sometimes there's negative consequences for somebody else, even if you're trying to help someone immediately.
Yeah.
With the horses dying.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so I think it's a poignant scene. And also, one of the main fucking reasons I hate the Justice League is because in the opening scene, when he's got a fucking hidden mustache, he starts to expound about something his dad told him. And he's like, my dad, this guy I know, like, that fucking man meant more to him than just being like, this man. He misses his dad.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought it was an important scene because it gave him, reflection that he hadn't been able to get from anybody else.
Yeah. And
he's the definition of fatherless. He's lost two fathers.
Yeah, and it really gets to that human part of him too.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And it installs in him that the voices and the memories of the horses dying died the minute that he met Martha.
Yeah.
And it instilled that love he has for Lois.
And that kind of plays out later on when Lois is trapped underwater and everything dies out and all he can hear is her. You know what I mean?
And he calls her his world.
Yep.
Just like Jonathan called Martha his world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
After this, we go to They Were Hunters. He walks back into Wayne Manor knowing that this may be one of the last times he walks in, or it may be another day. But he knows that this is bigger than anything he's ever done, and I kind of love this scene too. That he realizes the weight of what's about to go down. This isn't just some fight. This is a fight for the world.
Right.
And Alfred's like, so falls the House of Wayne. Like, this is the end. He's going all in. This is probably it.
Yep.
Superman's mom is kidnapped, and then so is Lois. We don't really know what's happening with them just yet, but we do know right after that Batman is locked and loaded and the light's in the sky. And it's just a waiting game because he knows that Superman will come if he turns that light
on. Right.
Lex has Lois brought to his tower at the very top and basically reveals that he knows that if he wants to get to Superman, he can go through her. And so he does.
Yeah, he doesn't need to try to find Superman himself. He can lure.
Yeah. And he's very good as a scientific thinker because that's his thesis. He follows through and it works. He pushes her off the deck of the tower. Superman shows up, saves her, puts her on the ground, flies right back up. But then, Lex again, one step ahead of the Superman.
Yeah, because I remember in the trailer seeing that brief shot of Lex standing over a kneeled Superman, and I was like, bullshit.
Yeah. But
and then you see how fast it turns for Superman.
Yeah. And Lex basically cons Superman into going after the Batman.
Well, yeah, because he says something to the effect of, someone has that special lady in his life, and he's thinking he means Lois.
Yeah.
He means his mother. It's like absolute panic.
Yep.
And the horror of seeing your mother tied up with witch on her forehead.
Yep. And Lex knows that Batman has the kryptonite, and so if he wants Superman killed, he could just have Batman do it because Batman has the one thing that can do it.
Right. This shows the obliviousness of Superman over 18 months, the blind rage of Batman over 18 months, and the actual calculated plan of Lex Luthor over 18 months.
I mean, pretty incredible.
Incredible, yeah. If you break it down that way, this is a good villain.
Yeah. And then we get to the fight.
Right. And Superman says, Bruce, I need to talk to you. So we know now he knows it's Bruce.
Still unfazed. Batman is still unfazed.
Batman is like, enough of the conversation.
Yeah.
There's no more conversation. You destroyed the Capitol building. Right.
I'm here for one thing, and that's you, buddy.
But it was interesting for him to, he backs away. He uses sonic cannons first. He hadn't seen sonic cannons used on Superman, and it does briefly stop him. So Batman continues to back up, and then he uses machine guns, and I'm like, well, we know that's not going to work.
I
And he
think
was a little bit taken back by that. And I'm kind of like, well,
I think
what
he
else we got?
I think he was just trying to see what he's dealing with, like
Yeah.
an overall assessment. But at the same time, he's so smart. He has the spear. He puts the spear in the ground right where he thinks the fight's gonna lead, and he is
True.
exactly right.
True.
And so, I don't think he necessarily thought that he was gonna get thrown around that much. But
No.
after him watching exactly what he did to General Zod, and General Zod was another alien, he probably knew he needed to be prepared if he was going to go through some walls or through some buildings.
Yeah, and I think what he also learned was he just thought, spray this person with kryptonite, it destroys their cells. Now I can do anything I want with them. Not realizing you got about a 3-minute window.
Yeah, I mean,
and he didn't make him bleed during those 3 minutes either. Like Superman took a punching, he took a beating, but it wasn't like he was bloodied.
Right. Yeah, he beats the fucking shit out of him.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
And it shows how weak of a fighter Superman is. He's super strong, but like
he just needs one punch.
Yeah.
He's never had to learn how to fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's one punch man. That's what
exactly.
it is.
But I love how I didn't think about this till watching it last time, but I love how he makes the kryptonite gas bullets, and I mean,
because he knew shooting a gun at him, he's going to catch it.
Right, but even just the idea of using a gas, I mean, that's straight out of Scarecrow's book. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he even he
Good
basically
point.
plays Scarecrow to Superman. He's like, you smell it, that's fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, breathe it in like that. Yeah, that's a really good point.
He made a fear gas for Superman, but it wasn't a gas to make him hallucinate. It was just to literally make him weak and to bring him down to Batman's level.
I put "Do you bleed?" maybe under that's fear. Breathe it in.
Yeah. Oh, breathe it
like,
in.
Imagine being fucking with somebody, fighting them, and you're like. You're fucking experiencing fear now. Like,
yeah,
that's powerful to me.
And he knows how that is because this is a Batman that's probably seen Scarecrow. I mean, that's straight out of Scarecrow's book.
100%.
So for him to pull,
that's a good point.
For him to be able to pull that on Superman, fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had never even thought about that before.
But I just thought about it this last time, and it makes so much sense, you know.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love the updated heavy duty grapple gun. He's so dialed in. You know, he doesn't necessarily play world's greatest detective, but he plays world's smartest fighter.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt and also with the following fighting scene, that he is a top-notch brawler.
Yeah, and after getting him to the ground and beating the fuck out of him, he does find out if he bleeds, puts the spear to his face and marks him.
Yep.
And then we get the most memed moment in movie history, probably.
Yep. Which we've discussed. I mean, I obviously I think Ryan Reynolds gave it extreme credence, but I mean, when you break it down, it fucking ties the story together. You have an individual who doesn't think of this person as a person, and then he realizes, oh shit, he's got a mother too.
Yep.
He's all of a sudden not blinded by rage, and he's like, I do want to make a point when Bruce has a nightmare sequence and Superman says, "She was my world and you let her die." Fast forward to, he says, "I promise you tonight, Martha won't die."
Yeah.
I was thinking, shit, if this goes sideways, maybe that's who he meant.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously we know it's Lois.
Right. Yeah. Lois comes in, lets him know that it's his mother's name, and Batman's brought back down to Earth. And then
immediately transitions to, all right, we're a team.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's get past this. I'm gonna save your mom. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
I do find it interesting that Superman never heals from the scratch on his face.
he does. He does when he's nuked and put back up into the sun.
Are you sure? Because when he's flying the kryptonite spear, I thought he had a gash on his face. Maybe not.
No, whenever he
wow.
gets healed up in space after he flies Doomsday up, because he comes back down and he's like, "Did you find the spear?" And his face is
Right.
fine.
Okay.
But yeah, interesting that it takes that long to heal though.
Right. Yeah, because he does the whole when he meets with Lex.
He is bleeding. Yeah, he still has
But
it.
again, at that point, it's nighttime. The sun's not there.
Right.
Cloudy, and it, just like in Dark Knight Returns, the sky got cloudy and he couldn't regenerate.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead.
Oh no. So they decide on what they're gonna do. He tells him he's got to get to the ship. He's gonna go save Martha. Jumps in the plane and immediately apologizes to Alfred. Alfred's like, "I'm here for you. You don't deserve me, but let's go."
Right.
And then honestly, I'll label this scene, but I can't even talk about it. This is something you just have to watch if you haven't seen it. Which, if you're listening to this, you've got to see it, and you've had to seen it, and you should go watch it again because it's the best. To me, it's probably the best cinematic fight on screen. I love all the John Wicks and everything like that. But I mean, what this director did and the fight choreographer did and the stunt people did to show this version of Batman fighting, 20 or 14, 15 people. I mean, fuck, dude.
Yeah, I remember when they went into that fight scene, it feeling also very Arkham.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
He comes out of the ground and then perches above, and people's guns are disabled, and then obviously people think it's still in the hole.
Right.
I think just a bomb went off.
Right.
As far as the hand-to-hand combat, also it's as brutal. I keep saying a brutal Batman as we see. Like, he's fucking murdering people in there.
He's brutal, and he's using every part of the suit. He uses his gauntlets to block knives. He uses his helmet and his head, or his cowl has the armor and the head. He gets shot in the back of the head. You know what I mean?
Right.
His suit, we find out, is not knife proof. It's just, again, it's hard to talk about it because you could do a whole podcast on the fight.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, it's as good a fight scene. What I do find curious is that KG Beast is in the other room, obviously, with Martha, and he knows that he has a mission, and he's got to wait for the timer to go off. He's that tied to Lex's plan,
right?
To where he doesn't go look in the other room. He's got another guy in there with him, but it just shows you how loyal he became to Lex.
Yeah. Yeah, he must be paid well.
Right.
But in the end, Batman saves Martha, gets her to the ground, and then goes to. Then it cuts to Superman in the ship. Lex believes KG Beast is calling him, but it's Batman. It's telling him he'd rather do the breaking in person. And Lex has realized that part of the plan has failed, which he probably already should have known if. Well, I shouldn't say that.
He fears Superman. He fears Batman also.
Right.
And so he thought Superman probably will end up killing Batman. That gets him off. Now I got Doomsday for Superman. Right. Now I can go the rest of the. He just wants chaos, and I'm actually not quite convinced that Lex thought he would live through this ordeal because Superman saves Lex from Doomsday Punch.
Right.
Which would have broken Lex. He would have died.
Oh yeah, he would have been dead immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we come to Doomsday. It's General Zod's body mixed with Lex's blood. Through the creation of the Genesis Chamber. And it's a monster that continually evolves as it's being attacked.
Yeah, people complained about the first trailer view of Doomsday, so it looked a little bit like the newer Ninja Turtles in the
Right.
head because traditionally you see Doomsday with spikes, but as the movie progresses, the only thing missing from this Doomsday was the long, stringy white hair that we see in the comics,
Yeah.
which is
Uh,
fine. Which is fine to me.
yeah. You know what else was in the comics? Fucking underwear on Superman. So we can get rid of stuff and still be okay.
Exactly.
But we see this battle. Superman decides to take Doomsday to space. He carries him from the back, so Doomsday literally can't get a hold on anything. He's out of control.
Right.
But then,
I don't think he's aware that they're going to throw a nuclear bomb until he looks down and looks at it.
oh no, not at all.
I
think
think
he's
his
just
plan
trying
is
to get
just
him
to
to
put
space.
Doomsday in space and leave him.
Right, exactly. I agree, but unfortunately, the American military once again is willing to sacrifice whatever they need if they think
Yep.
it's in their benefit, and so they decide to shoot a nuke at Superman and Doomsday, and the president's like, "God help us all." Well, that
Right.
God is about to be nuked.
Right.
Uh,
And only one projectile comes back down,
and it's Doomsday.
and it's Doomsday, and all of a sudden he's got nuclear energy because he just absorbed the bomb.
Right.
I will make this point, and I made it last time. What the fuck, Martian Manhunter?
Oh, you know,
Help.
that dude has got a lot of answering to do, which I hope we get to hear.
Please.
I mean, it's one
He's
thing.
got to be what you said last time. He's a non-interventionist.
Yeah.
But that takes him out of Justice League. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Unite the Seven has to include Green Lantern because we know he's coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, man.
I just remember Harry Lennox sitting there, General Swanwick, and he was just like, "Yeah, that's Superman. We can't stop him." And I'm like, "You could try."
Yeah. No
But then
shit.
I thought the next scene we see him surrounded by fire, which is Martian Manhunter's weakness. So maybe not.
Maybe. You may be right
I don't
on
know.
that.
Man.
There's only so much you can do.
I guess so, but man, turn invisible, do something.
Yeah.
Help.
And we should say at this time we didn't know he was Martian Manhunter. We know it now.
No, we didn't know at all.
So
this
at
is
the time,
a very
it's like
hindsight.
you're seeing him as a soldier who has no control.
Right. Right.
So we can't put that critique on him.
Right.
Honestly. But the president is willing to take that act. It happens. Doomsday comes back. Like you said, he's nuclear powered.
His bones start coming out.
His body mutates. He gets more power and doesn't know how to control it, so it just kind of erupts out of him.
Yep.
And part of this, I did have a question if this will kind of play into more down the line if Zack gets more movies, or it may even be in Justice League, but this kind of shows that America doesn't really deserve Superman. The president makes that misstep.
Well, they also think he's indestructible. Well, why wouldn't they?
That's true.
You know, I think General Swanwick is like, Superman is also up there, and then the president's like, would do it. I mean, why would they think any different? He's been able to stop anybody he wants. He stopped Zod, who was also alien.
Yeah.
I bet you they think, oh well, he's indestructible.
Maybe. Part of me got a little deeper into this like government thinking as far as like, will this play out in Justice League as far as the government goes, and like, will they have to have a new president? Will that be a misstep for him to shoot a nuke at Superman? Or is it just going to kind of get swept under the rug?
Well, we do see in Suicide Squad the direct aftermath, because remember, people are selling shirts on the sidewalk, and Amanda Waller's like, now that Superman's dead, it almost seems to pick up right after.
That's right. You're right.
So it's almost like a business as normal. Now let's show you the other side of the government doing even more secretive shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But Doomsday's back. Batman gets chased by him, gets his plane torn down, and thinks he's about to die, which we get the first Batman curse word when he says, "Oh shit."
Yep.
And then probably the best entrance of any hero with the best music. I mean,
easily.
Whoever I don't mean to disrespect. I don't know who is the actual person who came up with Wonder Woman's like guitar riff theme. because I don't think it
Yeah.
was Hans or Junkie XL. I think it was another person.
Uh,
But goddamn, I mean, it gets you pumped, dude. Um, this is probably the kind of comedy I love in this type of film that Zach does, where it's like, they're all basically getting to know each other in a sense, and like, Superman asks Batman, is like, is she with you? And he turns around and is like, I thought she was with you. Um, that, I mean, that's a perfect joke for this type of movie.
yeah, it says Zimmer and Junkie XL came up with the Wonder Woman theme.
Okay, I've got it. For some reason,
That may be a message board comment. I don't know.
Maybe I'm thinking of just the person who actually plays it, because I think neither one of them actually play the guitar riff. So maybe that's where it's coming from.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Well, it kind of shows too, like, sure, Batman and Superman are the main characters, but you need the Trinity to take down. And honestly, in the comics, it's always a question to me how in the Death of Superman 8 comic arc, none of the other Justice League members are there. He dies, and then it's like this. I think it's the second one where it's Funeral for a Friend. I think it's either the second one or the fourth one. But then all the Justice League members are there, and I'm like, what the hell? Where is everybody?
Yeah.
That makes way more sense that the Trinity would be there.
Yeah. Especially for a world type of villain.
Well, you saw Diana was on a plane ready to leave, even though there was an electrical storm, and then the minute she sees there's a monster, she's like, I fought monsters before, let's get it.
Yeah, I gotta step in.
She was fucking ready.
And again, credit to Zack Snyder putting his female leads up in front,
finally.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, again, this is another thing where it's like this entire battle is just something you need to watch.
Yeah, because he's clearly more powerful, and I think, we see Superman return and basically Raiden teleport into his back and toss him into fucking
like a gas, bunch of gas tanks or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a gas plant, and it explodes, and he fucking energizes over that, and I think they realize, but Wonder Woman keeps at it. Yeah, it's like, fine, I'm gonna have to go tactical and start slicing and dicing.
Yeah, she's basically like, I'll figure it out,
Right.
But because
to her, she had to defeat a god,
right,
in the first Wonder Woman movie, so she's like,
and they don't know that. Creature. They don't know.
Yeah, at that point we don't know that. But looking back, I know that's probably what she's thinking. She's like, I killed an actual god.
Yeah. But yeah, this whole fight is the epic kind of third act thing, and ends with the unfortunate death of the Superman.
Realizes he's got to sacrifice himself. Very also religiously tied. He does finally tell Lois, you're my world, to echo Jonathan Kent.
Yeah.
She kind of figures out what's happening. Yep. I don't understand how he can go underwater and then basically die in the water until she pulls him out, being that close to kryptonite, but then also summon the strength to fly at any speed with the kryptonite, even if he kind of looks like he's struggling.
I think, well, first off, he already got re-energized from the sun after that.
True.
So he's at full power when he comes back down.
But remember, though, when he goes into the water to save Lois and then goes in to get the spear, he's floating to the top.
Right, and I think maybe because that could be partially because the end of the spear affected the water.
I see. Okay.
Because once he gets out, he can hold the spear at the far end and keep it far enough away from him so he can fly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's what happened.
But he flies it into his body, kills Doomsday, but unfortunately he dies as well. I love the aftermath scene of as far as like the death and them mourning and Batman coming out. Wonder Woman carrying his body down. I really kind of love the mourning, somber tone of the whole thing that follows.
Well, I do want to say that actually, the scene where it shows Lois holding him, he's dead, Wonder Woman's there, Batman's there, to the top left of the screen are 3 crosses.
Oh, really?
Set up at the back. Yeah, I just caught it when I rewatched it. Three crosses. The center one's a little bit more positioned in the front, but clearly another religious.
I wonder if those are supposed to be like telephone poles or something like that in the shape.
Yeah,
I gotta catch that.
Exactly. I think that's what it is. It's damaged, but it is clearly 3 crosses. So yeah, I just want to make that point.
I gotta see that.
Yeah.
But we go through the morning stage. That if you seek his monument, look around you, because he literally saved the world. They give him the military send off, even though it's an empty casket, and they have his wake at Martha's home, where if you look at him in the coffin, he's wearing a suit jacket over his Superman suit. So everyone that comes into that house sees that he is Superman.
Right.
You can see the start of the hole where he got punctured, but you can see his arm. You can see the whole suit, and then he's just wearing like a brown sport coat over it.
Yep.
So Perry White, Jenny both come there. They realize that Clark is Superman. All these people, the closest people in his world, find out the truth about him.
Right. They do kill Clark off in the newspaper clipping alongside with Lex
going to jail,
going to prison.
Yeah, and he had a ring sent. He was going to ask Lois to marry him.
Right.
And they have all the sad kind of funeral stuff at the grave.
I do, I don't necessarily understand the end scene where we get the dirt rising from the coffin, because if it's the son that does it, you're going to need an electrical shock in the next movie to jump him. How, if he's in a coffin with no light, are you telling me that there's any sort of reverberation energy on him?
So I don't know. The only thing I can say about the floating dirt is that his body has the same pull on gravity when it's trying to summon something. So like in Man of Steel, he has that very violent takeoff, but when he puts his fist to the ground, that snow comes up around his hand and starts kind of spinning around.
But is that him generating flight force, or is that just because otherwise him walking would create that on the ground?
See, and that's what I don't know. It may just been one of those little things. I mean, they did the same thing in X-Men when Magneto and Charles are playing, or when Charles is playing chess by himself or whatever, and one of those pieces falls over or moves or whatever. Right. It's the same kind of idea. It's like, it's not over.
Yeah, I just think that was like if you're going to do a teaser, you don't have to do that one, because we know you're not killing Superman.
Yeah.
We know Doomsday kills Superman. I mean, unless you're just doing it for... I keep forgetting that in these movies it's for general audience, too.
Right.
You're not people that... But I think you didn't have to show that one, especially with the links they went to in the next movie, even though we didn't know at the time. But, yeah, I just always kind of wondered... It seemed like a throwaway, and it went against how you showed Superman healed with the sun.
I don't...
Because to me, then it's just like, leave him out on a sunny day dead in your backyard,
right,
and eventually he's going to get it.
Right.
Well, that didn't seem to be the case.
I think this is going to play to your point that you made to me through a text message earlier when you were like, if you think 30 minutes changes BVS, imagine what Justice League is going to be like now.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
So I think that could play into that, to where, like, when we see his cut of Justice League, that'll probably be explained. Or maybe, you know what I mean? Like, some sort of more information we get. We're just going to learn so much more from his, like, real vision versus what we got. You know what I mean? So,
well, I do know that a part that Joss didn't do on his own was the fight scene with them at the half false god statue. I know that Zach did that scene, because there's some behind the scenes stuff that was released with Zach directing the Flash's movement and the fight scene between Flash and Superman.
Yeah.
So how he gets, resurrected may change different, but at least it ends up still resulting in that.
Well, and I do know that they reshot part of that, because Batman wasn't on the ground with a dumbass smile on his face saying, "Oh, that's gonna hurt." You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And Dear God, please change it.
Oh God, I'm sure it will be. But
If I have to watch Superman ask, does Batman bleed? I'm gonna fucking punch the TV.
no, I don't think that'll happen.
No.
Or at least I don't know. If it does, it'll be done in a better way, regardless, because of who's in charge. But
Right.
I think all these unanswered questions that we have might be answered in something like that, where we're just gonna see so much more of what he was really trying to show us, and we'll be like, oh fuck, okay, now we get it.
Just the trailer we're gonna get in a week and a half will probably answer a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But we see the grave, we see everyone leave the grave, and then we see the conversation between Bruce and Diana, and Bruce is like,
Yep.
help me find the others like you. And she's like, well, what if they don't want to be found? And he said they will. They'll have to. We have to stand together. We have to fight. And she's like, something to the effect of, what makes you think we'll have to fight? And he's like, just a feeling.
Yeah.
They cut into that before he says just a feeling, with Batman going to see Lex in Arkham, which I believe is to show that he saw Lex before he went to the funeral, and that's why
I agree.
That's why he knows he's got to get these other people together, because something crazier is coming. He also understands how smart Lex is now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
and maniacal, because Lex goes a little bit like slobbering crazy.
Yeah, and to see him go from what he was to that, Bruce is probably taking it much more seriously.
Right.
But I never really understood that happened before the funeral until the last time I saw him. I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
But knowing that Lex is in Arkham in Justice League, God, I feel like we're gonna see so much crazy shit.
Man, if we just get a teaser of the Joker in Justice League, that'd be nice. Just to know his whereabouts, man.
Everyone's dick will explode.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it'll just be over. I mean, it'll be the most wanted. If they show the smallest hint of Joker, or even throw his laugh in there or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, everyone.
I'll buy 2 years of HBO Max.
Oh,
I'll say, give me another year. I'll create another account and just pay for an extra year.
Fucking A, dude. I mean, 100%. Can I pay more for my membership? I'll do it.
Yes, this isn't enough, sir. Give me more.
Yeah, I'd call him up and say, I think I'd like you to increase my rate.
Yeah. I don't want the discount price. Please double.
Yeah, I like the family. I want a family plan. I'm a single guy, but I want a family plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're gonna get so much. I mean, again, after this, it's the dirt flies up, and then the credits, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think, maybe he does that as this movie ends on hope, because Bruce speaks to Diana of, hey, we need to have hope we can do this, essentially, was kind of his tone. It was a much different tone. He basically said, we let him down.
Yeah.
We could have been better. He realizes he could have, when he tells Alfred, I don't deserve you, he realizes Alfred was right. He's not my enemy. And I should have been working with him this whole time. We would have stopped Lex way before.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
man.
But overall, I mean, as far as if I'm having to rank this movie out of 10, I don't remember where I put Man of Steel, but based on other Batman movies, I don't really want to compare them to, because it's obviously tonally different.
Right.
But it's the best DCEU movie by far, the Ultimate Edition. It's the one that I watch more than all the others.
Yep.
And it's on par with, as much as like I like to rewatch the first Tim Burton Batman and The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I would say it's exactly the same for me, except for Tim Burton's Batman. I like that movie too, but it's gotten harder for me to watch over the years, although it's much more watchable than Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. But But
yeah,
for sure, The Dark Knight. Honestly, BVS is probably number one for me, and then The Dark Knight, and then Man of Steel, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
For me.
Yeah, Dark Knight, and I probably would go Batman vs Superman and Dark Knight are tied. They're equally masterful to me, and then I probably go Man, I love the fucking one with Bane, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises it's not in the top two, but it's probably my third favorite.
There are definitely parts of that movie I like, but there are definitely parts of that movie where I'm like, but at the
Right.
same,
I think I do like it better than the Tim Burton one now, just
yeah,
because
yeah,
of a little bit how corny the first one can be with the graphics. And
yeah.
if you go back to the scene on the rooftop when he's walking away after he sees that family die,
Oh
the
yeah,
CGI
it's
shadow is so shitty.
it's like cartoon animation on top of
Yeah,
real life video.
literally, yeah. But
I
yeah, this movie is awesome. It's one of those movies where it's super long, so you got to be either committed to it. It's not one of those movies if you've never seen it just to have on in the background because you're gonna miss stuff.
yes, I 100% agree, and this movie is the most rewatchable to me too.
Yeah,
I just, especially if you can like you said, for the Ultimate Edition, if you can just plan out some time, like know you're gonna lock in for 3 hours and just get it on a good screen, get some good surround sound, and just dive in.
yep, yep.
But yeah, man,
Well, all right, man.
this is probably our longest podcast. It's probably about a little over 2 hours, but worth it.
Oh yeah,
A lot of stuff that we've talked about back and forth personally that we just probably need to get out there.
yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you for tuning in for the overview of Batman vs Superman: The Ultimate Edition, aka the Only Edition. And I don't know what's going to happen next week. We may take a week off and wait for fandom and trying to speculate off that because there's going to be so much fucking shit. It's going to go
Yeah,
hard
because
as
I don't
hell.
really want to review Justice League. I don't want to sit through that shit.
No, it doesn't deserve it.
It's an irrelevant movie now.
Yeah.
Because we know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But anyways, that's it for us. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.